It was a cold, unforgiving night on the outskirts of Solace, the largest human colony on the planet Zora. The wind howled through the alleyways, scattering the remains of discarded crates and refuse, as the city's neon lights flickered weakly against the encroaching darkness. The streets, usually bustling with life, had quieted in the wake of the latest crisis that had swept across the colony. The tensions between the human settlers and the alien species that lived among them had been escalating for months. I had seen the signs, smaller fights breaking out, whispers of espionage, and the occasional protest. But nothing could have prepared me for the day that the unthinkable happened. The invaders arrived. It had happened so quickly. The skies had turned dark, and before we knew it, we were under attack. The invaders, an alien species with sleek, silver armor and weapons capable of vaporizing entire buildings, descended upon us with ruthless precision. The Zorons, the species native to the planet, had their own way of defending their world, but even their formidable technology couldn't stand against the onslaught of superior alien forces. Amid the chaos, I found myself helping where I could, carrying injured civilians, rescuing children from collapsing buildings, and keeping the panic at bay. But it wasn't until I stepped into the alley to catch my breath that I saw her. She was huddled against the cold, her back pressed against the crumbling wall, trembling in the dim light. I wasn't sure what to make of her at first. She had the features of an alien, her skin a soft shade of lavender, her eyes larger than human ones, a deep shade of green that seemed to shimmer in the weak light. She wore tattered clothing, ripped and stained, and her hair hung loosely around her face in wild, unkempt strands. She looked terrified. "Hey, are you all right?" I called out, taking a cautious step toward her. She flinched at my voice, but her eyes locked with mine, and for a brief moment I saw something in her gaze, a mixture of fear and hope, as if she had never expected to encounter a human like me. The tremors in her body became more pronounced, and I could see her shivering despite the heat of the moment. "Please," she whispered hoarsely. "Please help me." I knelt beside her, instinctively reaching for my jacket. "It's all right, you're safe now. I won't hurt you." My voice was soft, trying to reassure her. She looked at my jacket, and for a long moment, there was nothing but the sound of the wind whipping around us. I didn't know what she had been through, what horrors had led her to this point. But the way she looked at the jacket in my hands, it was as though I had offered her a lifeline. Without thinking, I draped the jacket around her shoulders. As soon as the warmth of the fabric touched her skin, her body convulsed in a deep, quiet sob. Her shoulders trembled as if the weight of the world had just come crashing down on her. She clutched the jacket tightly, as though it were the only thing keeping her tethered to reality. I didn't know what to do. She wasn't human, but in that moment, it didn't matter. All I saw was a person, a living being in pain, and I was the only one there who could do anything about it. I gently placed a hand on her arm, offering her the comfort I could provide, but my mind raced with questions. Who was she? What was she running from? "You're not alone," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'll help you. Just tell me what happened." She pulled away slightly, looking up at me with wide, fearful eyes. "The soldiers," she began, her voice breaking with emotion. "The Zorons, she swallowed hard, and for a moment, I thought she might collapse from the weight of the words she was trying to say. "They turn on us? We tried to escape, but they hunted us down. My family, my people, Her voice trailed off, and the tears she had been holding back spilled down her cheeks. It was then that I realized just how much she had endured. She wasn't just a victim of the alien invasion. She was also a victim of betrayal, caught in the middle of a conflict that had spiraled out of control. Her people, whoever they were, had been targeted by the very beings who were supposed to protect them. I didn't know how to respond to that, but what I did know was that I couldn't leave her here, alone and vulnerable. The sounds of gunfire and explosions echoed in the distance, but they felt distant now. It didn't matter. What mattered was getting her out of here and ensuring her safety. "Come on," I said softly, helping her to her feet. "I'm going to get you out of here. You're safe now." For the first time since I had found her, I saw a flicker of relief in her eyes. She nodded, her trembling fingers grasping my arm for support. But as I helped her walk through the alley, I could see the wariness in her posture. She was still afraid of what might come next, of the dangers lurking just beyond the city limits. We made our way through the streets, avoiding the chaos and destruction around us. The city was on the brink of collapse, and I knew we had to get out before things got worse. But it wasn't just the danger that weighed on my mind. It was her, this alien woman, with her haunting beauty and broken heart, had captured something deep inside me. I didn't know who she was or what she had been through, but I couldn't help but feel a connection. By the time we reached the outskirts of Solace, the sun was beginning to rise, casting a dim, pale light over the ruined city. I found a safe place for us to rest, a small, abandoned building on the edge of the city where I hoped we could lay low for a while. As we sat down, I wrapped my arm around her shoulders, trying to offer comfort in the stillness. Her eyes were wet from tears, but she had stopped trembling. She looked at me, and for the first time since I had found her, she smiled. It was small, fragile, but it was enough. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I shook my head, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You don't have to thank me. I'm just doing what anyone would." But in that moment, I knew it wasn't just anyone who would have done what I had. There was something between us, something unspoken, and I knew that I had to protect her, to help her find a new life after everything she had lost. "Your people," I began, unsure how to ask the next question, but it had to be asked. "Are they still out there? Is there anyone else?" She hesitated, her eyes looking away. "I don't know. I don't know who's left." Her voice cracked. "I only know that I'm here now, and I have no one else." I took a deep breath, looking out over the broken city. But then I turned back to her, and in that moment I made a promise. Then we'll rebuild together. We'll find a way. And so, there in the shadows of a ruined world, amidst the chaos and pain, I found something I never expected: a bond. Not just between a human and an alien, but between two souls that had been scarred by war, yet still longed for hope. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one where we would fight not only for survival, but for something greater, the possibility of a future together.